Good afternoon, everyone. This is Group 2 presentation. We will be presenting the theories of development. I will be giving you a small introduction as to what we will be doing. Child development theories focuses on explaining how children change and grow over the course of their childhood. Such theories center on various aspects of development, including social, emotional, and cognitive growth. The study of human development is a rich and varied subject. We all have personal experiences with development, but it is sometimes difficult to understand how and why people grow, learn, and act as they do. Also, questions that we might ask from time to time, such as why do children behave in certain ways? Is their behavior related to their age, family relationships, or individual temperaments? So, developmental psychologists have strived to answer such questions as well as to understand, explain, and predict behaviors that occur through the lifespan. In order to understand human development, a number of different theories of child development have arisen to explain various aspects of human growth. So, today we will be demonstrating, rather, giving you a brief info on all six theories. Not all, but we'll be doing six of those theories that are common to us, and I do know you will all enjoy.
Yes, it's quite a pleasure to be here today. As you know, my name is Sigmund Freud, and I was born in Austria. That's the Czech Republic, right up in Europe. In about May 6, 1856. Right, and I have been a neurologist for many years. Oh, I'm noted to have been the founder of psychoanalysis, and this is something which as a clinical method of treatment, right? And this method, many don't fully grasp as yet, but we continue our research, and we know over the years that we will see better results. Now, theory has suggests that as children develop, they progress through a series of psychosexual stages, we call it, and at each stage, the libido's pleasure-seeking energy that forces different parts of the body at that time. The five stages of psychosexual development are based on the oral, which is about age of 0, birth to about age 2, and this is where infants are into oral gratification. So therefore, the sucking of the breast, the sucking of finger, nipples, bottles, all of this will happen in this stage. And I mean, we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it with all babies. Now when we get to the next stage, which we call the anal stage, I try to explain this is the age of about 2 to 3 years old, where we go through a path where we learn to control our bladder, for example. So it's a part of control, and what we have to look at is how this further affects us in life. So what we find is that a child learns to respond to some of their urges, whether to defecate or to urinate. And this says a lot about what our adulthood would be. Now, a phallic stage is where, about age 3 to 7 years, where a child learns and realizes the difference between a male and female. At this stage, though, they're very much into playing a lot with the genital area. So you will find that as a child becomes more sexually aware of their body and all that's happening around them and with others, noting the difference between them being a male and another child being a female. Now we get to the latency stage, and the latency stage is where the child continues his or her development, but sexual urges are relatively quiet. This is about the age of 7 to about 11 thereabout. What we've found is that at this stage, the child is more interested in their own sexual.
A pleasant good day to you. My name is Eric Erickson, and I will be telling you about my theory. Please enjoy. Erickson stages of psychosocial development is a theory introduced in the 1950s by the psychologist and psychoanalyst Erik Erikson. It was built upon Freud's theory of psychosexual development by drawing parallels in childhood stages while expanding it to include the influence of social dynamics as well as the extension of psychosocial development into adulthood. It posits 8 sequential stages of individual human development influenced by biological, psychological, and social factors throughout the lifespan. This biopsychosocial approach has influenced several fields of study, including gerontology, personality development, identity formation, life cycle development, and more. Children pass through stages, each of which is defined by a different erogenous zone, part of the body that is most sensitive to erratic touch. Frustration, conflict, and anxiety at each stage must be solved, otherwise development will be interrupted and the child will become fixated. According to Erikson, the stages are as follows. Stage 1, basic trust versus mistrust. Stage 2, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Stage 3, initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. Stage 5, identity versus role confusion. Stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. Stage 7, generosity versus stagnation. And stage 8, ego integrity versus despair. I will now be giving you 3 benefits of implementing a behavior plan. Firstly, the child's behavior and academic performance may improve positively. This is because the child now knows that certain behavior will reap good results/rewards. For example, if positive enforcement is exercised, the child will get an award/reward for doing and behaving well. The child will eventually exercise positive behavior. Positive behavior are those which help children move along toward the goal of becoming.
My name is Boris Frederick Skinner, and most formally called B.F. Skinner. Now, My small introduction for those who aren't aware of who I am. Now, I am America's leading psychologist. I'm also a professor at the Harvard University, and others might call me the father of operant conditioning theory because I focus on the behavior. Now, the behavior of human beings or mankind has puzzled me for numerous years. And as such, I went ahead to carry out my experiment to see what it is has caused us to behave the way we behave. Now, even though my theory is based on Thorndike's law of effect, I've went ahead to put a little more thought into this theory. Where back in 1948, a small experiment, which is now popularly known as the Skinner box, and this is where a rat was placed in it, and there are two signals, a red and a blue. There was also a speaker there, a lever also for food. Now what would happen is that the rat would realize that when he pressed on the lever, then he will get food. And because of this, now once I had went ahead to carry out this experiment, now I had realized that I called it the operant conditioning chamber, right? And this device was used to objectively record the animal's behavior, right? And as I said before, to reward or to punish in based on his behavior, all right? And as such, the lever pressing for the rats, because that was for the rats, and I had also tried it with the pigeons. Now I realized three types of responses for the operant behavior. A neutral operant. Alright, so the neutral operants, or as I went ahead to observe that the responses from the environment that neither increase or decrease the probability of the behavior being repeated. So the environment of the behavior would play a role. The reinforcements could be positive or negative, right? And these responses from the environment increases the probability of the behavior. Then we have the punishers. Now, the responses from the environment, when it decreases, the likelihood of a behavior being repeated, which is the punishment, weakens, right? Because so just to conclude, yes, I went ahead and to say the environment plays a role. Also, the child's age plays a role. We can't give them a difficult task and expect them to do it with no worries, and then go ahead to reinforce a negative punishment for them. So if too much positive reinforcement is carried through, that can also be at a disadvantage. Also, if too much negative reinforcement is carried on, it can also lead to a disadvantage. Therefore, it's up to us to try to balance that. If the child realizes that if I do this, I must or I will get that reward, he or she can that. That's not always the case. So we should learn to balance that for that individual. The child would realize so that the negative reinforcement, no, the child wouldn't want that anymore. So the child would
Good evening. My name is Albert Bandura. I was born December 4th, 1925, in a small town called Mondre in Alberta, Canada. I was one of the first theorists who was still with you up to age 95 until I passed away, sadly, on July 26, 2021, from congestive heart failure. Nevertheless, I implemented the theory social cognitive theory. The idea behind this theory was that children learn by observing the people around them, by being modeled to, and by imitating that model. In other words, monkey see, monkey do. I strongly believe that there are three factors that play into how a child shapes their behavior. Those three factors are influence, reward, and self-efficiency. I like to think these three things like when you're learning colors. So influence means that children are more likely to imitate people they know, admire, and who it views as accomplished. Hence, while reward determines what they will imitate. So, for example, if a toddler sees their older sibling saying things like, please, thank you, and being rewarded for it, automatically they will more likely adopt that behavior. The final layer is self-efficiency. This is how a child views themselves and their own ability to successfully adopt a behavior. So basically, my theory helps us to understand who and what our children see as important and what they believe about themselves, which is the key to figuring out what is informing our children's behavior. So my take is that my theory has been influencing a lot of
Hi, I am Michelle Walters. I am a professor at Columbia University. About 40 to 55 years I spent in studying, developing, and self-controlling of children. Today's society Adam and Eve hit the apple, and therefore we are suffering so many things today, such as children are lack of self-control. Children are not taught the right and proper way, so they do not grow up with the kind of respect that we had back then. Oh, but today I'm so delighted to tell you that I spent a lot of years developing and studying how could I assist these children in their behavior pattern. And today I'm just here to give you a brief history of me. Not too long and not too short. My name, as I said before, is Michelle Walters. I was born in August 22, 1930, in Vietnam, Augusta. I'm the father of three, 2 girls and 1 boy. I, however, receive education from a university in New York by the name of Hawaii. I also receive an award, AP Award, for contributing distinguished scientific contribution to psychology. I struggle, I struggle in my studies to come to the knowledge of how I could be such influence that I am to society today. I suggest that an individual behavior is fundamental, dependent on situational cues. This counters the trial theory's perspective that behavior dependent upon trials and should be consistent across diverse situations. I am best known for, could you tell me what that could be? Stanford Marshmallow Experience. I was so excited about this study that I did on marshmallow. With my own empirical work, laid the foundation for decades worth of research on self-control and life outcome across lifespan. I, however, pick up the pieces and I was successful. Hi, Marshall Walters, I'm widely known for the marshmallow test, the name tied to the experiment. I designed I designed in 1960 to measure young children willpower in the face of temptation. My theories is also similar to Bernard proposal.
Ivan Pavlov, born in Russia in 1849. I have been a physiologist, and my theory, which is classical conditioning, we could basically break it down into before and after. So we know, as I've shared in other instances about my dog, which I did my experiment on, and what I have found over that time period as I conditioned my dog to respond a certain way. It therefore means that people, human beings, can also be conditioned, and the example that I've used with my dog, for example, could be that the usual response for a dog when he sees food is to salivate. And as a dog salivates, you want to condition him. You're going to add what you call a trigger. The food now is your stimuli. And let's add, for example, a whistle or a bell as a stimulus. Now once that whistle goes or the bell rings, you will find that the dog, you're gonna be training the dog, and after a time you want to get your dog to respond to the bell or the whistle every time he hears it. He knows the food is coming. But you must put the stimuli and the trigger together. Therefore, every time I'm about to serve my dog his food, I blow my whistle or I ring my bell. Once my dog now hears the bell, after a process of being conditioned, he now responds to the bell. He salivates after hearing the bell ringing or my whistle blowing. Now, he doesn't need to see the food. And as you take this into the classroom or other areas that you may try the classical conditioning, what you find is, if a child, for example, He's frightened, maybe because he's experienced on the stage or in front of a class to talk or to present or to share his own experience, and you want this child to talk. Maybe you put a trigger